The wall. The wall seemed to be telling me something. Did it have a mind of its own? Or is it just a figment of my imagination? Unnerving signs, unsettling desires. A family that no longer should exist. Yes, this is the story of how I ended up in a straitjacket, never to be released to the public ever again. My name is David M. And I will omit my last name for privacy reasons. It was the 15th of May, 2017, 6 in the morning. I'd just awoken from a deep sleep. Immediately, I noticed the wall surrounding me. Great, I thought to myself, I'm back in this fucked up isolation cell. If most people could look at me, they might wonder, why are you in there? What morbid things have you done? And that's what today is going to be all about. You see, I have this appointment with a journalist from God knows where, who wanted to write an article to most likely further her own career. After all, everyone has their own selfish desires while pursuing anything in life. I figured, after being locked up for almost 2 years now, it's time for me to hit the spotlights. Let humanity know of the great, yet disgustingly morbid things that I've done. I want you to imagine this story as unfolding within your own little mind. After all, the narrative is based on the journal I was allowed to write while incarcerated. The ease I feel while being able to write down these words is of unparalleled comfort. You see, when the interview starts, I'm forced into a straitjacket since I have a tendency of gouging out eyes. Or biting someone's face off, and yes, I mean that literally. I have a hunger I can never satisfy, yet I find myself unable to pinpoint the exact moment it developed. A hunger for humanity's flesh. As I wrote down this last line, I could feel the saliva build up. My stomach starts to growl, and I need to eat something, but I'm tied to the schedule they wanted me to follow. Instead of allowing my mind to drift on the hunger pangs, I'll lay down again, close my eyes, and drift off into the black abyss of my own mind. That damn buzzing noise seems to go throughout the entire facility. I guess it's their way of letting me know I have a visitor. Yet in my mind, I'd call it a potential victim. But I'll try to behave for once in my life. My cell door opens, and I'm turned off by the strong smell of perfume that enters the room. It's vomit-inducing, really. In walks a young woman. It seems she's somewhere in her late 20s, followed by 2 guards who keep a close eye on me. I'm ordered to turn around and stand against the wall while they put me in that damn straitjacket. The urge for murder almost overtakes me, but I'm able to resist. After all, this might be my only chance of getting my story out there. It started off with the typical questions. How was my childhood? What were my parents like? What sort of hobbies did I have? Did I have many friends? How was my love life? and the list seemed to be endless. It almost drove me into a complete frenzy. What does the past have to do with my current predicament? I myself can't connect the dots, so I sure as hell don't believe anyone can do it either, because it's not their life, it's my own. Usually, that's what pisses me off about others. If you break the law suddenly, they want to turn your entire mind inside out in the hopes of finding out why you did what you did. It's a mystery even to me. But then, she finally asked me the golden question, the one I was aching to answer in as much detail as I could. What made you kill your entire family? The question was followed with a picture she held up in front of my face. There they were, my wife and my 2 daughters. For a moment, I felt some sort of emotional reaction. I couldn't really place the feeling. It felt like relief followed by happiness, then followed by the urge to go into a complete psychotic frenzy. Sure, they must have noticed my face and my eyes twitch in ways the average person never experiences for themselves. Thankfully, I regained my composure. It was then that I opened my mouth, and I thought I was going to speak, but instead, I burst out laughing. I laughed so much that tears started running down my cheeks. I almost fell out of the chair, but then one of the guards yelled at me, helping me get back into their reality. I apologize if it's distracting to you, but I want you to have the proper idea of how this whole interview went down after all. One deep inhale, one deep exhale, and I started to speak of a day most would call horrifying. Yet to me, it was one of the most thrilling adventures of my life. It was the 1st of April 2015. Now, if you're paying attention, you'll notice that the date is what we like to call April Fool's Day. But for some reason, my April Fools got a little out of hand. To give you a better understanding of my so-called family, I want you to know that my daughters were twins. They both were 9 years old at the time. I was 35, my wife was 33. So from an outside perspective, people probably thought we were a perfect, cozy little family. But it was far from cozy in my eyes. I've always wanted to create the perfect joke for April Fools, one that would be remembered for a long time. Yet I found none of my jokes ever seemed to stick with people. They either laughed for a few seconds and tell me how stupid it was, or they would not react at all. After years of agony, it then hit me. What if I created the first morbid April Fool's joke? A voice in my head then told me, "You're onto something." Who or what that voice was, I have no idea, but it helped me plan out with great accuracy what was to come. Around 9 in the morning that day, my wife went to her pathetic painting club. It's obviously disgusting what they created there. It's not art, but just colors splashed on a fucking piece of carton looking like shit. My children were already off to school. That created the perfect opportunity to set up the house for a wonderful surprise. I quickly went upstairs and checked the bedroom of my 2 daughters. They still slept in the same room, so I figured setting up the surprise of a lifetime for them shouldn't be a big problem. I checked their beds, and then a wonderful idea hit me. What if I open up the bottom of the mattress and place some scissors in there? In theory, I figured if they lay down, they would feel something pinch them, and I would jump into the room while yelling, "April Fools!" But after some more thinking, I realized it was yet another stupid idea. By now, I was starting to feel like I was cursed. Why can't I come up with the right joke? Where did that voice go that told me it was a good idea? For a split second, my mind went completely blank, and I stared at the walls. I could see a mouth appear, and it smiled right at me. As if hit by lightning, my mind zapped back into reality, and I blinked a couple of times and it vanished. What the fuck was that? Suddenly, someone rings the doorbell. I slowly make my way into the hallway and go downstairs. There was a delivery guy at our door. But why? I reluctantly opened the door, and he greeted me with his fake friendly smile and handed me a package. It had my name on it, and then he walked off. I stared at the package and wondered, what on earth is this? I didn't order anything, did I? As the minutes went on, I felt more and more confused as to what was going on. There were no return address on the package, and nothing else that would give me an indication from who it was. So I decided to open it up. To my surprise, there was nothing in it. I even turned the package upside down, hoping something would fall out of it, but there was nothing there. Is this someone's idea of an April Fool's joke? And if so, I fucking hate it. The person might as well be thrown into some crocodiles while people clap and cheer. April Fools, motherfucker. Have fun in hell, you bastard. I threw the package away and went into the kitchen, trying to get my mind back into what I was planning on doing for my family. It was then, as I opened the refrigerator, I saw the package was in there. I took a few steps back and turned around, looking at our trash, and it wasn't in there anymore. No, it literally moved itself into the fridge. I scratched my head, wondering, am I losing my mind? I slowly walked back towards the fridge and reached out to grab the package, and it was then that the most bizarre feeling came over me. I felt like I was being electrocuted, so I quickly pulled my hand away. I looked at it, and on the inside of my palm, there was a smiley face. Again, it looked like the smile I saw on my wall a few minutes ago, but this time, I saw the mouth moving, as if it were talking to me. I held it up against my ears, and I could hear it whisper. I couldn't understand the language at all, so I looked at my hand again, and then the smiley face was gone. I quickly slapped myself a few times in the face, trying to make sense of it all, but I couldn't. It was then that the front door opened, and there she was, my wife, together with the kids. I shockingly asked them what they were doing home so early. She didn't understand what I meant, since according to her, it was 6 in the afternoon. I froze into place. and I slowly turned my head toward the clock and saw it for myself. 6 p.m. What the hell? I mumbled to myself. Just a few minutes ago, it was 9 in the morning. What have I been doing for all those hours? It just doesn't make any sense. My wife put some bags on the kitchen counter and asked me if I was alright since I looked rather pale, but I shrugged it off for now. Nothing made any sense anyway, so might as well pretend nothing happened before I freak everyone out. She had bought groceries and told me I could relax on the couch and watch some TV if I wanted, as she prepared dinner for us. The kids went upstairs to play in their rooms. I guess I lost my opportunity to pull off my morbid April Fool's prank. Well, better luck next year, I thought to myself as I sat down on the couch in defeat. 1 hour later, my wife told us that dinner was ready, but the kids didn't respond. So, she called them a few more times, but still, no response. She went upstairs to check on them, and when she entered the room, a most ungodly scream came from her throat. It was so ungodly, in fact, that it even creeped me out, though I can guarantee it was only a 2 on a scale of 1 to 10. I got up and went upstairs to check on her. As I entered the room, I noticed there's blood everywhere. My children's organs are strewn across the walls, and body parts are spread out over their beds. For a split second, I could see the smile on the wall, as if it was satisfied with this result, and I blacked out instantly. It was on the 2nd of April, 2015, around 2 in the morning, that I was awoken by a voice. "Pay attention, you damn fool!" Someone shouted, and everything was a blur. I blinked my eyes a couple of times and regained my sight. I was chained to a table, and in front of me were seated 2 police officers, clearly agitated. They asked me if I was ready to talk, and if not, I won't be leaving anyway, because they had all the time in the world to wait on my confession. And I asked them for how long I'd been there. They acted surprised at first, claiming that for about 5 hours straight, I was talking nonsensically, a language none of them understood, and it was agreed on it probably wasn't a real language anyway. This was very odd to me because as far as I knew, I blacked out when seeing my dead children, and I asked them about that, and they looked at each other confused, and then pointed out to me that I brutally murdered my own family. One of the officers left the room. The other one just stared at me in silence. It was very awkward, to say the least. I didn't know what to say, so I kept my mouth shut. The other officer then returned and threw pictures of my dead children on the table. And I quickly asked them about my wife's whereabouts because I can't remember killing them. Who says she isn't a suspect in this case? Again, they looked at each other baffled by what I just asked, and then pointed out that my wife's torso had been found in the oven. Her legs, arms, and head were removed and found in the living room, just like how my kids were found cut up into pieces. Another picture of the crime scene showed our kitchen wall, and written on it with blood, it said, "April Fools." Needless to say, It left me speechless. Are you aware? You didn't just kill them, but you ate parts of their bodies. One of the officers asked. Surely, this can't be true, I told them. I also explained there was a UPS delivery guy earlier that knows I was home. I didn't kill anyone. I even remember my wife coming home to make dinner for us all. They then explained to me that I made a frantic call to the school my children attended and wife's painting club, telling them to come home early because of an emergency. So my wife left the painting club, picked up the children, and rushed home. What happened when they got home? They asked me, but I couldn't give them an answer. So, you just brutally murdered your own family, is that it? One of them asked again. I didn't know what to say. And then it hit me. That smiley face. What was that all about? And I realized I wanted to create a perfect April Fool's joke that everyone would remember. Surely, they're just playing along and trying to freak me out because it's all a morbid joke, I thought to myself. I put both hands on my head and started grinding my teeth together as I stare at the pictures. I'm starving, I mumbled, but they couldn't hear what I said. Then out of nowhere, in a complete state of frenzy, I said out loud, "These people tasted as nasty as their souls were when alive." I guess my response was enough justification to lock me up for life, and not just in prison, but in an insane asylum. It's almost comical to think that my life turned to absolute shit because of my desire to come up with the most insane April Fool's joke ever, play it on other human beings. I guess by now, I should also make you aware that I'm more insane than I myself probably realize, because even to this day, I'm not fully satisfied with what I've done. I feel like I could have done a better job, but in order to do so, I need new victims. I could hear the walls giggle and confirm that I am indeed possessed by something evil. It was here that the journalist interrupted my perfect storytelling, or at least that's what I like to tell myself, that I'm the embodiment of perfection. It's the only way to keep my fragile ego intact after failing to get away with murder. Are you telling me you have no recollection of the murders you committed? As if you ended up in some sort of psychosis and lost grip on reality? She asked me. I looked straight into her eyes and saw a faint expression of fear, but she seemed to fight it. So I asked her in return, how many moments in every week can you recall in great detail? How developed is your memory? What if someone else drugged me and then murdered my family and I was passed out and linked me to the crime scene? She thought about the questions for a moment and then replied, telling me if this were the case, then why did the police said you were the one calling your family to come home due to some emergency? Surely, you must have had some sort of plan for doing so. I closed my eyes and decided I had to tell her about the smiley face both on my wall and on my hand. I walked the risk of sounding even more insane if I were to admit this, but I figured it was well worth it, since I'm not getting out anyway. Have you ever heard someone talked to you. A voice coming from the walls. So sinister, so unnerving, that it seems to take over your mind. Have you ever had your own hands whisper to you stuff too dark for the light of day? I asked those questions while never breaking eye contact for a split second. I had to see her response. Instead, she started to write in her journal. Frustrated, I kicked the table. In response, one of the guards put his hands on my shoulder, indicating I shouldn't take it any further, so I held back. After what seemed like eternity, she finally put her pen down and looked at me and said, "I think I have everything I need, so I'll take my leave." She got up and walked towards the door. As she opened it, a deep urge came over me, and I said to her, "If tonight's not the night he comes, then there's always tomorrow that he can show up." She shrugged it off and left the room. The guards gave me my daily dose of medication, and I was slowly drifting away, back into the depths of my own insane little mind. Who was I talking about when I said, "If tonight's not the night he comes, there's always tomorrow that he can show up"? Well, I guess, even to me, how I ended up in here and how my family died will stay a true mystery. A memory filled with holes. No dots that can be connected, only frustration and a desire to have done a better job executing my plans. And the only thing I can recall before passing out is thinking to myself, I guess my idea of a morbid joke really took on a life of its own. To this day, I only feel this god-awful hunger for flesh, and so far, nobody has ever believed my account of events. Though I can guarantee you, they were all very true. At the end of the day, maybe it's best if I stay in a straitjacket for the rest of my life.